Okay, our next step here is governor carb assembly. What you're looking at right there is a cart of our specialty tools. Obviously these are the tools that we don't have in our toolkits. We have some torque wrenches, some other tools that we'll be talking about. Today what we're going to use is a chisel and a hammer to take apart our carburetor governor assembly that Mr. Diorio is pointing to right now. And in order to get the governor part off, we're going to need to make some special marks to make sure we put it back together in the right spot. So let me zoom in for a minute and see where we are making.
What I'm trying to do is make a little line here that marks up with the latch of that right there.
Okay.
And you see this end is going to come right in between the split right here. But we're going to separate this with our chisel and our hammer here in a couple of minutes. And study it real good here and take a couple of pictures of how this looks with the carb kind of pressed out like this. You could still see the gasket behind there. How this linkage is hooked up over here, right like that. And you could see it's different and slides back and looks different when I slide the carburetor all the way back over there. So Mr. Jerzik's going to show you how the proper way to undo all of this is, but I just wanted to take a couple pictures. I'm going to even take one more from the back side just so I have plenty of documentation, and then I'm going to take a couple quick pictures of this right here so I could see the mark I put on there, so I could see the way all of this looks from a couple of different angles. I think I got enough pictures.
Okay. So now we want to start by taking off the assembly here. And this is where our specialty tools come into play. So once I loosen up this nut here, it's pressed together. It's kind of like two fingers that are squeezed around our governing linkage that goes inside the crankcase, and we need to split this apart. I could just grab a screwdriver and hit it with a hammer, but we know that a screwdriver is not a chisel. A chisel
Tip of it
is a chisel. So what we're going to do is we just want to open those two fingers up. Okay, so we need to unbend it because it's just bent right now. Okay.
It's locked in place.
A lot of battery cables are like this, and some steering linkage is assembled like this. Okay, just on a larger scale. So I'm going to put my chisel right in here, and I don't want to hit it hard. I just want to try and open it up enough so it'll loosen up. I'm going to try and get it in here.
Looks like it popped it loose there.
And hopefully you can see that it opened up a little bit. And I'm going to check and see if it's loose, and it is. So we loosened it up just enough to pull it off. Okay.
I'm going to take one more picture because pictures are free.
Alright. Now we could pull our carburetor off with all our linkage assembly. And now that it's off and together, like so, I could disconnect my linkages here. In order to disconnect this, it has to be swung all the way over. While it's together, this won't be able to come, or this linkage won't be able to come off the carb unless we pull this off first. So this simply comes off like that. Same thing with our spring here. So now we have our carb, we have our governor linkage. We want to make sure that this is kept together.
I'm going to take a quick picture of that, Mr. Jerzak, real quick. Just because I want to make sure in case it falls off at any time, I have that documented.
Okay. Again, we have a delicate spring here. We don't want to damage in any way, so I'm going to be careful when I'm handling my parts, when I'm putting them away. I don't just want to throw them in my locker. I don't want it to fall out and then put my engine on top of it and it'll bend everything up. Here's my carb. It may have a little bit of fuel down in the fuel bowl, which is this part. Okay. I want to make sure this doesn't get damaged. I have some plastic parts up here, like our throttle, our choke, our fuel cutoff, which is right here. I want to be careful with this also. Then we have another spacer here with another gasket. Oh, you can see my carb is leaking gas. Okay, so we're going to have to clean that up. Set this aside. I'm going to grab some rags. And another good reason to wear our safety glasses. Gas in the eye is not fun. Okay, here's our spacer between our carburetor and our cylinder head. I want to take this gasket off carefully. I don't want to damage it. I want to reuse it. Again, if we were rebuilding this for a piece of farm equipment or something that we're going to be using, obviously these parts would be replaced and they'd probably be worn. So I'm going to take that off.
Whoa, can you, I didn't quite see that real quick. Can I please take a picture of that?
Absolutely.
I did not see the way you took that off. Thank you, Mr. Jerzak.
Okay. Come off. I have another gasket here. Again, I want to be gentle with it. I don't want to tear it. It's basically a piece of paper. You do not want to tear it.
So it looks like this one was different in shape than that one right there.
Yep.
So, is there any way we could identify this easier? Should we mark this?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
We can mark that. Carburetor to spacer gasket. And then we could mark this one spacer to head gasket.
Okay.
And as we go to assemble our engine here with these gaskets, most times the gasket's going to match the face that it's attached to. In some instances, especially on our spacer here for our carb, it's not going to match this side, but it will match the side of the carb. Okay, so set that aside. And that's the removal process for our carb and governor assembly.